Hey guys, my name is John, and you're listening to the Tech Leader Pro podcast. It is week 52 of 2024, Sunday the 29th of December. We made it guys, another year behind us. So this time of year, I'd like to conduct a review of what happened in the year in terms of technology, business and the economy, and make some predictions about what I think will happen next year. It is important to say that these predictions are not what I want to happen, but are instead what I think will happen. Therefore, these are not my opinions. And it's important to say that, guys, because sometimes people make predictions in a wishful way, and these are not necessarily things that I want to happen. They're just things that logically I think will happen. Now, before I start looking at 2025, let me first compute a score of my predictions for 2024. If you look back in my feed around this time last year, I published an episode just like this, making some predictions for 2024. So now I will go through each of those and see if I actually was correct. So the first prediction in 2024 was that the EAC versus decel movements will become more vocal. With the election of Donald Trump and US tech leaders, especially Elon Musk, siding with him during that campaign, I think this year has largely been victorious for the EAC side. Senior tech leaders are now realizing that they need to get their hands on legislative powers, as those powers have been used against them too many times in the past. An example of this is the DOGE initiative led by Elon Musk and Vivek, with the aim of reducing government red tape and bureaucracy in the US. That DOGE initiative has not been put in place yet, of course, but the fact that it's even been openly discussed, in my opinion, is showing that the technology accelerating side is winning. So the result, I'm calling this a prediction met, with a win on the EAC side for now. My second prediction for 2024 was that nuclear would make a comeback. One interesting trend this year was data center owners taking power supply into their own hands by investing in small nuclear reactor technologies. These reactors are called small modular reactors. In an unprecedented example of build your own infrastructure, they no longer trust governments to provide reliable cheap energy. Amazon, for example, announced an investment in October of 2024, and I will link to that in the show notes for this episode. The result was the prediction was met, and this trend will continue in 2025, especially here in Europe where the energy sector is an absolute mess. Prediction number 3 for 2024 was that the mainstream media would be gamed by generative AI. I have been unable to find any evidence of this happening in 2024, either because people are too wise to images and videos generated by AI, or because the results are not good enough yet to fool enough people at scale. The result on this one, therefore, was prediction not met, but maybe in the near future. My fourth prediction for 2024 was that the EU would continue to regulate big tech. With the Digital Services Act, which was brought in 2022, and the Digital Markets Act that was brought in 2023, the EU is already ramping up pressure on tech companies operating within the EU, and I will link to both of those from the show notes of this episode. The EU moves slowly like all large bureaucracies, but it is only a matter of time before they start to impose fines on large tech companies using those legislations. In the meantime, legal firms around the EU are making a fortune helping firms to prepare for compliance. It is basically GDPR all over again, only more far-reaching. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, or EFF, have published a great overview of the legislation, and I will link to that article from the show notes of this episode. So the result on this prediction was that it was met, and I see this becoming a bigger problem next year. My fifth prediction for 2024 was that free speech restrictions would drive more people to VPNs and other anonymous services. The biggest surprise for me this year has been the UK, which has made a sharp turn towards authoritarianism under the new Labour government led by Sir Keir Starmer. In a remarkable turn of events after Brexit, the UK is now arguably the most heavy-handed European country for regulating its own citizens' free speech online, with many high-profile cases ending up with prosecutions and prison time. While I anticipated this to happen, I did not anticipate it to happen in the UK first. So, unfortunately, this prediction has been met. So overall, I give myself a score of 4 out of 5, which is not too bad. Now, what about 2025? What's going to happen next? So again, guys, these are just for fun, and these are also not my opinions, but my predictions. Prediction number 1, America first. The Donald Trump victory marks a return to insular foreign policies and protectionism. President Trump is already talking about withdrawing from conflicts, which I think is obviously a very good thing, and he is also talking about bringing in tariffs, for example, which is old school protectionism. Looking closer to home, where I live here in Ireland, I believe we will be impacted if the corporation tax in the US is reduced. I would therefore fully expect to see a softening of US investment in Ireland next year. Prediction number 2, the Empire Strikes Back. The DOGE efforts will run aground when unions and other employee legislations prevent the mass layoffs that Elon and co. would like to bring into place. The deep state civil service is too entrenched to be unravelled in a single term, in my opinion. Therefore, I suspect these efforts will be bogged down next year. But simply, I think Elon and co. will find out that it is much harder to fire people from the government than it is to fire people from a private company like X. Prediction number 3, AGI will continue to disappoint. I recorded an episode previously about the lack of a Moore's Law for AI, and I'll link to that in the show notes for this episode, and how OpenAI model growth is already slowing down. AGI is near is becoming the new singularity is near in terms of slogans that we keep on hearing again and again. They always seem to be near, but they never quite arrive. While the recent growth in generative AI has been remarkable, I believe we are still decades away from artificial general intelligence, or AGI. Prediction number 4, woke media is dead. I believe we're in the stage of the final sting of the dying bee when it comes to woke media. Most people want to be entertained, not preached to, and therefore they are voting with their pockets, and they are not buying tickets, and they are not buying licenses for games that are preaching to them. I therefore expect large gaming and Hollywood companies to pivot back to their historical center grounds next year. Prediction number 5, the EU will continue to swing right. Immigration policies and lack of policing is spurring the growth of right-wing parties across the EU. The left no longer offers solutions to these problems, but instead simply offer more of the same. Across the EU, several incumbent government parties are at risk. Look to Germany first, and then France. Overall, guys, I would say we're in for a difficult year next year. I think that there are some green shoots appearing, hopefully, for the economy. But I don't remain that optimistic, which is not like me. I still feel quite pessimistic, to be frank. I think we're going to have problems with energy. I think that's already happening in Europe. That will just continue to eat away at economic growth. It's causing all kinds of supply chain costs in terms of inflation. I would expect that to continue. I think in the US, it's looking a bit more optimistic with the new government coming in. I think there will be growth in the US. And all us Europeans can hope for is that some of those positive tailwinds will blow our way. As for our own leaders here in Europe, I am pessimistic. So to reiterate, the above predictions are just for fun and are not meant as advice to take actions or investment decisions upon. Happy New Year, you guys, and I will talk to you next time. Take care and have a great week.